Yeah, none of these things work. Alright, I think I'm ugly enough. Yay! Good. Ah, cool. Woohoo! Hey, I'm live. I'm gonna see if I could spin around this thing. Alright, there we go. Cool, that works. Alright, cool. Let's see if we can begin. Oh, still using this gimbal thing. See how well that works. Alright, guys. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yoo-hoo. Alright, cool. So, I'm in the middle of doing some maintenance, basically. Trying to wash my car, water in it, hope it grow. If it grow into a Mustang, I'm happy. Yay! V8, bitch. Right. Anyhow, so, I was been asked several times, tips on pressure washers, before the purchase, what to do, what you could use to get a longer lifespan out of it. I mean, you're going to invest in something that is well over $1,000. Well, that's some branch just below. But the principal fact remains the same. What you just do to get a longer lifespan out of it? What you could do to make sure that you don't have to go in 6 months and buy a next one? And then you want to say, cheap is rubbish, whatever the case is. So let me give you some healthy facts of how to properly use a pressure washer. Now, this information given to you came from MITM, and those who know MITM and whatever it is, I call any brand because I had training from them. So, what we have on the ground here is not an MITM. All right, so that's the little doohickey we're going to be doing the demo on, right? So basically, all of them have the same principle when it comes to it. When you're connecting it, when you're connecting it or you're attaching the hose to it, it has some principal facts, right? So I am using a 5/8 garden hose, which is recommended. So the reason why we want a 5/8 garden hose because it doesn't matter if you have a tank or not. It doesn't really rely on the pressure to really say you know what, I have a tank. Well, alright. Damn this freaking gimbal red. Okay. Right. Yeah, so it doesn't matter on the tank to say like, hey, I have a tank, I should be working ideal. It's not really that. It's more to the fact that you want good water pressure, as in more cubic. The more cubic you have, is the better for you, right? The volume of water is more important than the pressure of the water, because you can have a high psi, but if it's not full in the cavity good enough for it to compress, you're gonna have an issue, right? So it's gonna be compressing so fast. Remember, these RPMs on these engines and them is something like 800, 1200, depends on the cubic size, right? But basically, you have the pistons, three pistons inside compressing the water. So if the cavity is not full enough with volume rather than pressure, it doesn't have anything to compact to, right? So then you're gonna end up getting the engine singing out, or you realize you're pulling trigger and you're not getting the pressure you should. So a 5/8 hose is always recommended, right? So what we do, we connect it to our hose, the 5/8 garden hose, let the water run through it, make sure there's no air in it. Then we connect it to the pump, or in this case, the pressure washer. So by connecting it to the pressure washer, now we also have the next option of air in there. We don't want any air in there. Why? When you have air inside your pressure washer, the valves and other seals and stuff like that could damage. Why? Well, air could actually change the shape when it compresses. Whereas water have a certain amount of density before it becomes almost a solid. It could go a lot smaller than that. However, as the smaller it get, is the more pressure it builds, so that means it's a lot more dangerous. Right? It's a lot more dangerous in terms of expanding. So when it expands at a high degree, it basically would rip through anything. So the speed at which it expands at goes to a higher PSI level. So that now, if it hits a seal or something like that, it actually blow past the seal and damage the seal. There's also valves and other things inside of there. So compressing air inside of a pressure washer pump is not really a good thing, right? The other thing we want to look at, right? So the other thing we want to look at when we connect in our garden hose is basically how we make sure that there isn't any leak. So inside of the where the garden hose connected to, there is a O-ring. So we need to use the O-ring to ensure that the water doesn't leak out. Alright, so in using the O-ring, it ensures that the water doesn't leak out. Still trying to get hang of this thing. Right, cool. So once it doesn't leak out, we need to make sure that O-ring allows water. So once we have that tight seal, because if the water is passing through where the garden hose is connected to the pump, we're going to lose PSI. It wouldn't work optimal, right? In that case, based on that, we could be sucking air and cause further damages to the pressure washer. All right. So we bleed out all the air from the compressor. We still have air in the hose that is connected to the gun. So we also bleed that out, right? Now the reason why I'm telling you in stages, yes, you can connect all and run out all the air all at once, even through the gun. But sometimes that take anywhere between like a minute or so. So a lot of people would like want to hold on the gun, like set the gun per bottle or something between the trigger and just leave it like bleed out before they actually start. Yeah, but it's not really a safe practice. All right. So as we have that started, we use the pressure washer. Now the electric ones have an automatic TSS switch that will automatically cut off the pump. But if you're using electric, a gas, you do have that luxury. So what happened? You have an unloader with a rotating valve. So when it builds up to a certain pressure, the valve will open and allow the water to circulate into the pump. This is a good thing for short use. Anytime it goes over a certain period of time, the pump itself is made out of brass. So what will happen? The heat and the water now is going to create that erosion of the brass, because you know brass gets soft when it get hot. And yes, some of them just be like 3500 psi, trying to squeeze through this little office size. So you basically don't want that to happen. So if you're putting it down anything more than a minute, shut off the machine and start it over again. That's for the gas. The TSS switch in the electric will automatically cut the current based on the PSI and allow that pressure to stay there. All right. Another mistake I see a lot of people do is when they finish with the pressure washer now, they don't disconnect the hose nor the gun itself, right? If you release the trigger and you shut off the water pipe, the pipe coming from your house, you still have that PSI buildup between the pump and the gun in the PSI level there. So if you pull the gun, you're still going to get at least a small dispense of that PSI before you break that compression, all right? Because of the valves, it will stay between the pump and the gun, right? Always remove your hose when you finish, both high pressure hose and your low pressure hose. High pressure hose is the one from the gun. Reason being, the water is going to evaporate and then you're going to have a problem of chlorine or calcium buildup. If for some reason we have to take down the pump to do any kind of servicing or anything to the pump, it's actually going to fuse onto that high pressure pipe line. So we're going to have to cut it, or we might have to damage the pump or damage the hose, or something is going to get damaged. It's going to put you in further expense. A high pressure hose is probably close to $400-500, and if some of them are attached to the gun, it's going to be close to a new pressure washer. So we don't want to go down that road, right? The other thing with it is that sometimes the gun themselves, there's chlorine buildup in it. You want to squeeze the trigger and not use a tie strap and leave it open all the time, because after a while that entire plastic part, everything inside of there is going to get corroded, because when you release the trigger, it actually clears the port where the water passes through. But if there's calcium buildup while the trigger is always on its own position, it's going to damage your gun faster, because the pin doesn't come down to clear that passageway for your water. All right, so we're ready to pack up, we're ready to put away, we're ready to disconnect our hose. We have one major issue. The major issue we have is there is chlorine buildup in the pressure pump. Yeah, when the water evaporates, chlorine staying in the pump. And there's valves and steel like that. And we know chlorine is acid, so we want to get rid of that. So we get rid of that. WD-40, the white man school. So basically we do it on the pump and spray some WD-40 inside, which by the garden hose was connected. Right, so basically we use the WD-40 inside the high pressure line, sorry, inside the garden hose line, and spray it until you see it running out. Once you see the WD running out, what it do is keeps these valves on them lubricated. It keeps these seals lubricated. If there's any chlorine that would stay on these springs to cause it to rust and eventually break, it would avoid all of that. You actually coat in the inside with WD-40, which WD-40 means basically means water displacement 40th try. Water displacement 40th try before they get right. Right? So by doing that now, we actually get the opportunity to seal off any moisture from in there, from the chlorine and any other debris or limestone buildup, anything like that. You actually take it out. So the next time you're ready to use it, you wouldn't have to worry about it not building pressure or something wrong with it or anything like that. All right. So these are some quick tips. Once you get this quick tip that you get a longer lifespan out of a pressure washer, hope everybody's staying COVID free. We still in Trinidad having some issues with that. And another thing of enjoy all your Labor Day, Independence Day or that day. Yeah, enjoy all your Trinidad Day. Yeah. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this tech tip and be safe, stay safe. Peace.